In this video, we're going to discuss how to win the board game, Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth.
Don't worry, Frodo, I'm here to help.
I don't need your help with this one. I have a simple strategy that always wins. I seriously doubt that. No, really, I call it fast conquest. You play nothing but red and yellow cards, and you discard every other card for gold, particularly those annoying green cards. The basic idea is to win a conquest victory before your opponent can win by support for the races, and way before they could complete the quest for the ring. That can't be right. You definitely should play some gray cards for skills. If you look at the 3 red cards that appear in the first chapter, you'll notice that only one of them requires a skill to play. In the second chapter, a lot of the red cards have chaining symbols, which further reduces the need for skills. The ruse skill appears at least once on about half of these cards, so it might be worth it to play 1 ruse card. But even that's not certain. See, instead of playing a ruse card, I could discard it for gold. So you need to play at least 2 cards that require ruse to make a profit, and that doesn't account for the fact that gold can stand in for any skill, which gives you extra flexibility when choosing cards or landmarks. Things only get worse in the second chapter. If you discard this card, you get 2 gold. If you play this card, you actually have to spend a gold. The effective cost of playing this card is 3 gold. And don't be too enamored by the fact that you get 2 copies of the same skill. It isn't like you save unused skills for the next turn. The card only provides 2 ruse if you play a card that requires 2 or more ruse. Relatively few cards need 2 or more ruse. Fine, but the Chapter 3 cards are very expensive. You'll need skills in Chapter 3. Maybe, but I'm actually hoping the game will be over by then. How so? Let's say I'm playing Sauron. You get about 10 cards each chapter. If I play 1 ruse card, the 3 Chapter 1 red cards, and my share of the Chapter 1 yellow cards, I can still discard 4 cards for gold. Add in the 2 gold I started with, and I've got 10 gold to spend. Let's say I buy Erebor at a cost of 5 gold using my 1 ruse. I'll get the fortress and 5 gold, so I'll still have 10 gold. Then I'll buy Bree, which will wipe out the starting fellowship troops and give me a second fortress. Finally, I'll use the movement on Bree to win the game. So you see, it's possible to win a conquest victory in the first chapter. You've assumed that your opponent strictly cooperates in their own demise. I said it was possible to win in the first chapter, not likely. But my opponent might cooperate more than you guess. If they're trying to build up an engine using skill cards while collecting green and blue cards, they're pretty much leaving conquest to me. Further, they probably won't have enough gold or skills to buy landmarks during the first chapter. If they do that, I might not win in the first chapter, but I should be in a good position to win in the second. I guess it might work unless they know how to counter it. And how's that? Let's call it the gain the support of the races approach. First off, if letting you have all 3 of these cards sets you up to win, that's not much incentive for me to let you have them, is it?
Once everyone understands the basic strategy of the game, I think most games will come down to card play. So let's take a minute and talk about card play. This is a very interesting draw. We have a number of premium cards here. We have a couple gold cards, we have a race card, and we have one of the 3 military cards that appears in the first chapter. So if you really want a gold card, you don't actually have to take one now, because your opponent can only take one of the gold cards and you'll be guaranteed to get at least one. In most games, I would say you're either going to be collecting race cards or you're going to be trying to prevent someone else from getting race cards. So this card is a prime target for either taking it as your first move or you might discard it as your first move. But with these 2 gold cards here, I think you would probably take one of these, let them have the race card, and then take the second gold card and have 4 gold already at the end of the second turn. Plus your starting gold, of course. At that point, you'd be set up to actually buy a landmark in your 3rd turn. There are some players who would actually take the military card right away because they're really focused on the military strategy. That might be an error because I think the most important aspect of the military strategy is probably to get all of this extra gold. So here's where we get into discussing how we control what cards people get to see. You see, if this card, and this card are all played, and then my opponent discards this card, I'll get to see this card first, and I'll have a chance to make a decision about it before anyone else can. Let's say that I took this card, and my opponent took that card, and then I took this card. Now, my opponent has a choice. If they want skills, they could take this card, but they'll reveal 2 cards for me. That's quite good for me. So I think they would either want to play this card if they're interested in a military buildup, or they would want to discard it to prevent me from getting it. That still gives me 1 new card to consider. I've already seen my opponent take 1 race card, so I would either take this card if I'm interested in competing on races, or I'd discard it so that they didn't get it. This also leaves my opponent in an awkward spot. No matter which card they take, I'm going to get to look at 2 new cards. That's really a big advantage for me. So if they want to take this card for a skill, I'll get to take a look at 2 new cards. In this case, these cards aren't particularly exciting, but they might have been just the card I was looking for. And a lot of this game is about preventing your opponent from getting those new cards. So now, if I'm sitting here looking at this particular setup, do I take this card? Absolutely not. I mean, in this case, this card is the same and it wouldn't give them any new cards to look at. But even if these 2 cards were different, and even if this card were a bit worse, I'd be tempted to consider this card because picking this one gives them no fresh opportunities. You want to go first in each chapter. Sauron goes first in the first chapter. Playing a landmark or getting an extra turn changes who will go first in the second chapter.
So you're saying you'll play or discard my crucial red cards and you'll try to manipulate the stacks so that I don't get the first chance to consider new cards or play red cards that are already revealed? Absolutely, and I'll manipulate turn order by playing landmarks when I would rather see you pick up the next card. You'll want to be careful with that one. If you're set up to buy a must-have landmark, you might not want to delay. Sometimes, while I was being cute about turn order, my opponent has taken the landmark I needed. Good tip, but beyond defensive card play, I'll focus on engine building. Some of the best engine building opportunities in the game are found in the alliance tokens, so let's say I'm going to focus on a support for the race's victory. Of the 12 green cards in the deck, all of them require either leadership or knowledge to play, so I'll want one of each of those. Those are hard to come by. There are a lot fewer knowledge and leadership cards than there are ruse, strength, or courage. I might need to discard those. True, but I usually only want one anyway. Actually, I want one of each skill because it helps with landmarks, and some of my green cards need them also. Sometimes I'll get a second copy of certain skills, but you were right when you said that the second copy pays off less often. By the way, I noticed that all of your preferred landmarks require strength. Actually, any chapter 1 skill card that I'm guaranteed to use when I buy a landmark before the end of the first chapter should be played. But more generally, I can't get too attached to skill cards because I want to discard them for gold so that I can buy early landmarks and win quickly. While you're discarding cards for gold, I'll keep collecting green cards and play just enough military to prevent conquest. Helm's Deep is a great landmark for that because a fortress and 3 troops will make it hard for you to establish a presence in Rohan. But what about blue cards? Wouldn't you please take some of these? No, you need 14 rings to win that way, and the blue cards don't help me build my engine. There are 22 rings in the blue cards, and 11 of them appear in the 3rd chapter, so it's hard to win the quest for the ring until the very end of the game. Further, if I take blue cards, I'll have a hard time getting enough green and gray cards to build a dominant engine while blocking your conquest victory. I'll discard the blue cards for gold. For that matter, I might discard some red cards for gold too. Like you, I want some gold for an early landmark. In the same vein, I'll seek out yellow cards because I want the extra gold, and just as importantly, I want to deny you the gold that you rely on to play cards and landmarks. Okay, but you aren't the only one who can block your opponent. If I discard a pair of green cards, you can't win. That's not true in 3 different ways. First off, if I have the feather, I can miss one of the races in the cards. What if I throw both hobbits, denying you the feather? Even without the hobbits, I might pick up the feather using the Grey Havens. 3 cards get discarded at the top of each chapter. Your precious green cards might never even appear. In most games, 1 or 2 green cards will get discarded that way. I can dig into the discards by playing Barad-dûr, or even with this Wizards Alliance token. Good luck getting the Wizards Alliance token. The Wizards and Ints only appear in the 3rd chapter. The game will be over by the time you get it. Not necessarily, and that leads to the 3rd reason I'm not beaten. beaten, even if you discard 2 pairs of race cards and I can't get them back. What's that? You can't win a support for the race's victory that way? It's impossible. First off, if you've been spending a lot of time blocking my support for the race's victory, it'll slow down your military strategy. That's disastrous for you. When your fast conquest fails, you won't have many skills or alliance tokens. But when my support for the race's effort fails, I'll have a pile of skill cards and alliance tokens. Perhaps I'll have alliance tokens that give me extra gold, extra skills, additional troops, or freedom to put troops where they are needed. During the 3rd chapter, I'll still be able to afford the expensive red and purple cards you cannot, and I'll still be able to afford landmarks. But wouldn't you rather have this alliance token? Just think of all the extra turns. There are only 2 yellow cards in each of the 2nd and 3rd chapters. If you get that alliance token at the end of the 2nd chapter, you might only use it once. If you get it in the 3rd chapter, you might not use it at all. So you'll beat my fast conquest strategy by conquesting right back at me? That's right. If my support for the race's victory falls short, I'll win conquest. You're trying to win fast conquest. Let's call my approach slow conquest. I'll build up an engine by building up skills and alliance tokens. Then I'll crush your armies in the 3rd chapter using powerful but expensive red and purple cards. I don't even have to win conquest outright. I just need to have presence in more regions at the end of the game than you do. Yeah, I admit that might work most of the time, but thank goodness I still have my ace in the hole. Oh yeah? What's that? Never mind, but if you beat me this way a few times, I guess I'll start collecting green and gray cards. With both of us collecting green cards, it'll be much harder for either of us to get alliance tokens. With both of us collecting gray skill cards, those will get harder to find too. Where does that leave us? Racing for the feather token, maybe. Or maybe we'll both fall short of a support for the race's victory and battle it out in the 3rd round. Perhaps one of us will start collecting blue cards and pursue the quest for the ring. With only 22 rings in the deck and 11 of them in the 3rd chapter, it's hard to get 14 moves. And what if some of those important cards get discarded? The bonuses aren't very good on this track either. It seems hopeless. It has to be the hardest way to win the game. There never was much hope. Only a fool's hope. But that's why it might work. You see, no one's going to contest you on blue cards until you've gotten quite far along the track. That's when bonus ring icons might mean an instant victory. There are a fair number of ways to pick up bonus ring icons. You make it sound like you're going to sneak up on your opponent and win by surprise. Anyone who's surprised when you win by playing down your 10th blue card wasn't paying much attention. Outside of the books and the movies, I just haven't seen that many Quest for the Ring victories. Me neither, but it does happen. If you're unlikely to win support for the races or conquest, you've got nothing to lose. So are you going to let us in on your ace in the hole? Well, alright. Let's assume I'm playing for a fast conquest victory. In my earlier example, I showed how to win in the 1st chapter by playing Erebor to pay for Bree. But a good opponent will block that. Given this setup in a real game, I'd play Grey Havens first because doing so would allow me to get a human alliance token. If I get this token, discarding cards becomes far more profitable and my economic disadvantage in the late game disappears. Once I have this, almost no skill card will pay off. Even yellow cards are better discarded in the 2nd and 3rd chapters. So I'll just discard everything that doesn't directly contribute to conquest. On the other hand, if I get this alliance token, I get an extra troop with each red card. That really adds up if you play it early in the 1st chapter. Early game, either token is good enough to swing the game in my favor. You're right, Grey Havens is a very strong early game landmark. Usually you'll wait till the 2nd chapter to pick up your first alliance token, and then you don't have the ability to pick which race you'll get. Lots of these alliance tokens change the game if you play them in the 3rd or 4th round of the 1st chapter. That's very achievable if you pick up an early yellow card, discard, or play applicable skills. That's why my favorite setup for fast conquest doesn't look like this. It looks like this. You see, if my opponent wants to play for support from the races, he'll be hard pressed to pass up that early green card, leaving you to take the yellow cards and play Grey Havens in the 3rd round before you discard anything or play any red cards. I agree, it's very solid play. I guess everyone has to be hyper aware when Grey Havens appears in the 1st draw, and it will do so almost half the time. As a slow conquest player, I might prefer an elf alliance token over human, but either is excellent. Certain alliance tokens would even make the quest for the ring easier, if you played them early enough. You won't go wrong by pursuing support from the races and falling back on conquest in the late game. Well, I guess that about wraps it up. The dominant strategy is to build up a big engine using selected skill cards and alliance tokens, while discarding blue cards and taking yellow cards to fund a landmark in the first chapter. Your primary goal is to win via conquest in the third chapter. This is our so-called slow conquest strategy. If you pick up a support from the race's victory along the way, so much the better. Even so, you'll win using fast conquest or the quest for the ring sometimes, especially if you get the right alliance token early. Ultimately, most games between good players will come down to precise manipulation of the cards and turn order. And there are hybrid strategies that might work, say something between the fast and slow conquest strategies. But don't try to do everything. You need to focus, and you need to discard some cards for gold so that you can afford an early landmark. Personally, I'd like to dig deeper into the card distributions, but that's gonna get technical. It's probably better put in another video. Thanks for watching. You're awesome. Strange, I could have sworn I had a beard. You shall not move across! Huh. Just doesn't have the punch I wish it did.